comments. Oops. Okay, I think. Yep. Yep. Is it live? Yes, it is live. Yes, it is live. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Okay. Hello, world. How's it going? Hope everyone's doing well. Hello, Ryan. Already a live viewer. You are fast. You are quick, buddy. Holy moly. Monsters Zafuzi. You're my favorite. You're pretty quick too. Jeez. Okay. Well, let's jump right into things. So we have Dakota here from Language Learning Lounge. This is number 2. Yeah, second time we've had you on here.
Yeah.
Emil, hello. Wow, 4. Oh my God, you guys are super fast. Emil, Monsters, Ryan, hello. Who's our mystery fourth person? Say hello. Say hello. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I don't bite. Well, maybe I do, but I can't bite you through a screen, so don't worry. So we got Dakota out here. We're just doing a quick little discussion just on a little bit more of a serious topic compared to normal, which is the effect that mental illnesses have on language learning. So just a quick disclaimer, I know woefully little, like very, very little about the topic. Just don't know a ton. Dakota knows more than me, and actually, yeah, maybe it'd be a good place to start. If Dakota, you could just sort of share a little bit about maybe your background or maybe your experience
Okay.
with that.
So I'm not an expert or anything. I only know my own experiences with mental illness. I have personally been diagnosed with depression from 2 different doctors, but I don't necessarily trust their diagnosis because I was diagnosed before they even spoke to me both times, just based on what my father told them or the fact that I was hospitalized for an attempted suicide. They came in and told me that I had depression. But other people in my family have been diagnosed with things like bipolar before. So there's a decent chance that I'm actually bipolar. Or I could also just have a severe anxiety problem because I also have a lot of anxiety in general. So I don't have a diagnosis that I technically really trust. But I've been dealing with this since I was probably 10. And my family as well, multiple family members have been diagnosed with other mental illnesses. So that's where all of my experience comes from.
So how is it? I mean, it's funny, we've chatted very surface level, usually in my comments,
Hmm.
just about things like, I know you've mentioned in passing things like, I think it was you who said at one point, I remember correctly, that you originally started learning languages. It was something to the effect of like building your confidence around something or fighting anxiety, something to that effect. Do you want me to
Yeah.
talk more about that?
I used to actually have crippling like social anxiety, and I hated talking to strangers, and I hated talking on the phone, and I still do to a certain extent. But I would go to grocery stores or like stores in general looking for something, and I'd be too terrified to talk to a store clerk to help me find the thing. So I would literally wander stores for hours, not be able to find the thing, and like leave in tears, afraid to talk to someone and find the thing that I need. Um, and in high school, I was really bullied a lot, and I found that I was really comfortable in language classrooms because the teachers were amazing people. And that comfort in learning languages eventually just made me fall in love with languages. And I realized that to really learn a language, I had to talk to people. And
Hmm.
so I started really diving into this because I found that I was more comfortable speaking to people because of these languages. So I used it to sort
Right.
of like self-medicate myself and overcome some of my social anxieties.
Yeah. That's really cool. So how has that changed things for you?
Well, I can talk to strangers and get help in the grocery store now, for example, which is
Hmm.
really helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
Buying food is a must. It's crucial.
yeah, I still have, some trouble talking to people like in small talk. It makes me really uncomfortable,
Hmm.
but I'm not afraid to talk to strangers anymore. I can ask for directions in the street. I've made a lot more friends in
Hmm.
general, because I can talk to strangers now. I used to be really lonely
Right.
before.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine it's pretty tough. So, um, it's funny, right? 'Cause I was thinking before we hopped on this live stream. Like
Mhm.
I was just thinking about like I was trying to imagine and like just put myself in the shoes of someone who who in a way who's their whatever mental illness, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, whether it's whatever it is, how that could impede someone in a lot of ways from actually, how it could impede their language learning. Have you felt that at all for you?
Oh, definitely. Because when you've got really bad depression, like there were times when I would just lay in bed for like weeks straight and not shower and barely eat and not do much of anything.
Hmm.
Um, and so when you do that, you obviously can't learn a language because you don't want to do anything. And actually, right now, I'm still on, for the most part, a break from really intensive language learning because I couldn't mentally handle all the pressure and the stress. And I didn't want to do anything. And so I took that load off myself to focus on other things like making sure I shower and I get up and I eat. But at the same time, I also found that learning languages can be a factor in like encouraging yourself to get up and do things as well. I made a video once about keeping track of things and making to-do lists and apps like Memrise that count your daily streaks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and those can be really motivating to help you get up and continue doing things. Because when your depression is not terribly bad, but it's still enough to inhibit your day-to-day life, losing a 100-day streak can, motivate you to get up and to do something. So that's another reason I think
What do you mean
language.
by a streak?
So on things like Memrise and Duolingo, if you get on and you hit a certain goal for the day, it
Mm.
says you got a 1-day streak. And if you do
Oh,
that
okay.
for every day in a row, so like if I meet my goal for 10 days in a row, I have a 10-day streak.
Right.
And when your streak starts getting rather high, and if your depression or anxiety is starting to build up, but it's not crippling yet, it can really push you to get up and do the things you need to do. At the
Mm.
same time, like I've mentioned, it can also add unneeded stress,
Yeah.
which can
Has it
just
ever gone the other way where you've got a streak of like 97 and all of a sudden like you have, for whatever reason, like is it's tougher one day another and you don't, continue on, it breaks the 97 streak? Has that ever happened?
that's actually why I'm on my current break right now.
Oh, okay.
Because I was at like 130 days or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And I didn't even like think about studying because I was just in bed all day. I think I sat around and watched YouTube videos and like didn't get out of bed at all.
Hmm.
And then at like 2 in the morning, I realized that I missed my streak. And I was like, that's like something I looked forward to every day.
Right.
Um, and the fact that I didn't care about it enough to the point where I just didn't do it. And like
Mm-hmm.
a few weeks leading up to that day, I had been dreading doing it, and I did it like the last 20 minutes of the day or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so messing up my streak made me realize how stressed out and depressed I actually was. And
Right.
so for the last couple of weeks, I've been doing very minimal studying.
Mm. Right, 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 right. So you told me, on the Skype beforehand, you're like, hey, you wanted to sort of quote unquote like just break a lot of the stigma
Mhm.
that there isn't mental illness. Like what did you mean by that? Like what did you want to share with people? What were you wanting to do?
Well, a lot of the people just don't like talking about it in general
Mm.
because it's sort of looked down upon. Like if people find out that you're depressed, sometimes I live in a bigger city now, and the place I work and the people I hang out with are pretty understanding, and a lot of them have dealt with things themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But where I come from, people don't really get it,
Mm.
and they'll like walk on eggshells around you, and things can get really awkward if they find out that you have depression or stuff like that. My dad, when I was a kid and I tried to explain it to him, he didn't get it, and we got in fights about it. Um,
Hmm.
like I would tell him I was depressed and I wanted to kill myself, and
How would he
it
react?
wouldn't go over
What
well.
would he say?
One time he gave me a knife and told me to just do it.
Hmm.
So,
Wow.
yeah. um, like people just don't get it. They think you're seeking attention, and that's not what it is a lot of the time. Like if someone's telling you these things, and there's probably something wrong, but just like all these attitudes of like attention seeking and stuff, it makes people who actually really need help, it makes it a lot harder for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I don't want people to be ashamed to like, speak about these things
Right.
because there's a lot of misconceptions, and I don't know, it's just really tough some of the times. Like I said, now the place I am in my life, it's not because I'm an adult now and I can choose who's around me.
Mm.
Um, so that works out better. But especially for younger people, I think it's important. And for people, I don't know, people in the language community, I think that I haven't seen anyone talk about it. It's probably just super niche,
Mm.
but I think that it is something that really affects aspiring polyglots like myself, because it can make studying extremely hard and nobody talks about it. And so one of the things I want to do is to tell people how they can use their anxiety or their depression to hopefully as a benefit of some sorts.
Yeah.
But
So what are, I mean, you talked about like the different streaks on Memrise or on, you know, apps like that. Like what are some other things that you've done that have like worked for you? Yeah, worked for you.
well, learning a language is a measurable skill. You can
Hmm.
see yourself getting better. And so a lot of the days where I feel really down on myself and I feel worthless, what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll look at the streaks and how far I've done and how much stuff I've been doing, but I'll also look at things like old assignments I wrote, or I'll look at old conversations in like Facebook or something, and I'll see how drastically my French or my Japanese has improved.
Hmm.
Um, and it makes me feel, even if it doesn't like fix everything, which is impossible, it still makes me feel better, and it makes me feel like I'm not wasting my time doing the things that I'm doing.
Yep.
And that feeling and that achievement can really help, again, if you're not in a crippling state of depression, which is when you need to get, ooh, am I still on? It says I'm live, but you disappeared. Are you back?
Oh, yeah, I'm back. Are you back there?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's whenever the stream, it's the stream. YouTube streams for some reason they if you ever watch my live streams, you already know they cut in
Yeah.
and out every now and then. But anyway, continue
Okay.
your thoughts.
I don't remember what I was saying now.
You were talking about language learning being measurable skill. You talked about where did you break off? You break off at, I can't remember where we broke off.
Like, it's just, a measurable skill. Like, you can see yourself getting better.
Yeah.
And if you are like at a crippling stage of depression, that's when you need to
Right.
go and
Right.
get professional help. But when you're not quite there yet, and you're just down, or things are making you anxious, but you're not quite, it's affecting your life, but
Hmm.
it's not crippling and it's not destroying everything around you yet,
Mm.
then seeing these improvements can help quell some of the disappointments that you have in yourself,
Right.
um, which I think is a really important thing. I think that while taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication and stuff like that is important for some people, it's not always
Hmm.
needed. You also need to learn these coping mechanisms,
Right.
because even with medication, things can still get out of hand. And you always don't want to just rely on these things, because your body can start rejecting. You can build up a tolerance.
Hmm.
And so you need this arsenal of coping mechanisms. And people in the language community can use their language studying as one of those coping mechanisms to be able to see progress and to be able to see themselves doing something and becoming what they want to become, because it's measurable, and you can do these things like memorize streaks. You can see yourself working towards a goal and attaining that goal.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I don't. And it's funny. I wrote two things down because it was interesting. You said like language learning is like a measurable skill. It's
Mm-hmm.
funny. I agree with you, but I don't know if everyone studies in a measurable way. I think not everybody. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have students. I have students who often I record my lessons. Not every lesson, but
Yeah.
I'll record typically with one of the first 3, 4 lessons, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
usually record the within 15 to 20. So
Yeah.
like number 3 and then maybe number 20 or number 2 and maybe 17, whatever I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's interesting to see the progress. And it's funny, every time they'll be like, wow, I didn't realize I'd gotten that much better.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if everyone uses measurable tools, but it's really good that you mentioned that. I think people can benefit from that. And the other thing as well is like just focusing on progress and other like coping mechanisms. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's huge. Like whether, I mean, interestingly, whether or not you have a mental illness, that's probably really interesting because languages are hard for a lot of people anyway, are hard and frustrating regardless. Now
Yeah.
you throw, anxiety or depression or anything in the mix, and now it's even worse. And now you're now it's even worse. And I think that's a huge one. So I think last thing before we wrap it up, there's just a question from Ryan who asks, "Does depression have a cure?" I think it doesn't, but I could be off.
From my understanding, it depends on what your depression stems from, because a lot of people, most people through their life will go through a period of depression when you lose a parent or something. The
Right.
feeling and the depression and the pit you fall into can be diagnosed as depression, and those things can be temporary. However, I probably have an inherited chemical imbalance in my brain, which is not curable. So
Okay.
it all depends on what the cause of the depression is, if it's a
Right.
circumstantial depression or if it's a chemical imbalance.
Right. Fair point. Cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's about one. Yeah, I got to actually leave in literally right now. So cool.
Well,
Thanks for being on, and thanks for the 4, 5. Well, we had 6, and now we're at 4, 5, 6. Kind of fluctuated. 4, 5, 6 people who are on. So
awesome. Thank
talk
you
to
for
you guys
having me.
later.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.